My. These are very strange days on the internet. I'm glad I'm alive and out of jail to witness it. Now, I couldn't make this up if I tried, but nobody can't say I didn't kind of sort of predict it anyway after fighting with all the covert feds on the internet over the years. Now, there's just so much I could put in the comments of YouTube, and I have no doubt that YouTube will probably kill this YouTube. So before I elaborate much further, Julian Assange, the editor of WikiLeaks, who's been ignoring me since WikiLeaks came into existence, sent me an email on March the 7th. Now that's over a week ago. I responded immediately. He had sent me a link to Jazeera's report of what was going on in Iceland and what he was doing there with the Icelanders who want to free up the internet from corrupt federal authorities. So anyway, I clipped Jazeera's YouTube. Watch this and I'll explain further if there's time.
Iceland seems an unlikely place to come to escape libel chill, the threat of legal action against journalists. But that's what this proposed law aims to achieve.
This legislation is based on legislation from around the world, good legislation that has proven itself.
It's an interesting experiment trying to gather best practices from around the world.
A range of laws on protection of libel, protection of sources.
So I guess that it will work both for Icelandic journalists and foreign media, probably the same.
The proposal has been just 6 months in the making. Its genesis can be traced back to a news broadcast last August. Iceland's economy was still reeling from the 2008 banking meltdown when RUV, the national broadcaster, tried and failed for legal reasons to get a banking story on the air.
5 minutes before we went on air, we got an injunction.
Nú hefjast fréttir laugardaginn 1. ágúst.
Our presenter wanted to say to the viewers, here are the stories of the night, or at least the stories that we're allowed to bring.
Samt ekki allar þær fréttir sem við ætlum að segja ykkur.
Iceland's largest bank, Kaupthing Bank, had obtained an injunction on a big story. It was about a document that had been posted on WikiLeaks, a website that's made its name as the go-to site for whistleblowers around the world. Julian Assange is one of the founders of the site.
On July 31st, 2009, WikiLeaks released a document about the Kaupthing Bank, the Kaupthing loan book. But before they could broadcast it at 7 p.m., an injunction landed on the news desk. That injunction forbade RÚV from telling the Icelandic public about the leak.
However, the documents can be found on WikiLeaks, and then we had a graphic which basically showed the website address.
So the Icelandic public became enraged that they were being denied this important information. And the political fallout of that moment is something that pushed this forward.
This is the Icelandic Modern Media Initiative, known to Icelanders as IMI.
The people behind IMI envisioned a single piece of legislation to prevent a repeat of RUV's experience in August 2009. The idea? To protect journalists and whistleblowers through a media super law that would safeguard not just Icelandic media outlets, but bloggers, journalists, authors and their sources around the world.
The group scoured the statutes of countries like Belgium, France, Scotland and the United States for the strongest legal wording on issues like source protection, protection of communications, protection from unfair libel charges, and lumped them into a proposal for a single law. One last aspect is crucial: allowing news organizations and journalists from overseas to access computer servers in Iceland to host sensitive content in order to try to keep them beyond the reach of repressive governments and courts.
A lot of the companies that run these internet service providers are very, very small. They don't have legal departments. So people who feel that they've been libelled or defamed will come after not you actually, but your ISP. If again you had a country where that just couldn't happen, then that would offer up an awful lot of help for people running small websites, small investigative teams, and then maybe eventually the larger ones.
So the content would be protected. But what about the people producing the content outside of Iceland? like Karim Amr, an Egyptian blogger jailed in 2007, or Sri Lankan newspaper editor Fredrika Jans, who's under constant pressure to change her paper's editorial line. What's to stop the authorities in those countries from prosecuting them, no matter if the server is in Reykjavik, Cairo or Colombo?
It's important to remember that the IMI appears to be a good bullet, but it's not a magic bullet. So there will be many cases where there is brutal suppression of the press that the IMI doesn't have a substantial effect on.
So the individual journalists in Sri Lanka or in Burma or in other places will still be subject to laws there, but the organisations perhaps may not, and more importantly, the information that they manage to get out of the country may not.
So for journalists needing to steer clear of repressive regimes and laws, there are two options: fly under the radar or work out of Iceland.
Obviously in countries where there is no concern with the diplomatic interplay with IMI, or perhaps the people who might persecute the journalists may not even know about IMI, people will still have to publish anonymously.
What we're seeing increasingly in digital media is small groups of investigative journalists banding together under new guises away from mainstream media, and they could certainly, being more nimble, being faster, could really take advantage of the very favourable conditions in Iceland and of their own mobility.
People like Julian Assange and Birgitta Jonsdottir, however, have bigger ambitions for IMI. It seems an idealistic vision, but they're hoping to set off a ripple effect from Iceland to the European Union and beyond.
If we have one country that sets the example and creates this haven, then it will have an impact in the sense that journalists can publish here, or it will put pressure on their own countries to have that sort of legislation on their home base.
If the proposals did work and you had a large amount of media basing themselves in this haven, then you would eventually come to a point where other countries' media laws would seem less and less relevant and workable. So eventually countries would have to adjust their own laws, probably to become more moderated and more favourable towards free expression and free information.
And even if Iceland's proposed laws don't spill over into international legislation, if passed, they will certainly impact media across the world and the World Wide Web.
More Global Village Voices now on the media initiative in Iceland.
I think that this new law in Iceland is an intelligent response to the secrecy that has caused so much harm to the Icelandic economy in the last year. In addition, from a British perspective, recent reports in the media about the Trafigura case have highlighted a power disparity caused by the libel tourism laws in the UK. It will be interesting to see if the new law in Iceland allows a defence by proponents of free speech around the world.
Even post-war, for example, expressing dissent in Sri Lanka risks hate speech, abduction and even outright murder. There is simply no domestic safe haven for investigative content on, say, really contentious issues like war crimes. This is where I think the Icelandic Modern Media Initiative has a very good chance of success. It's a timely, valuable idea, and especially for investigative journalists who fear violent reprisals in a country like Sri Lanka. Quite frankly, this is nothing short of a tremendously valuable asset.
I don't have much time to deal with me in Iceland, so I'll stick with the issues of the internet as it concerns IMI and WikiLeaks and Jazeera. Everybody and his dog who's in the know I'm a whistleblower about money. I proved that to WikiLeaks as soon as they came in existence, as I said. They ignored me, but then out of the blue, Julian Assange sends me an email. I respond immediately, but Google notifies me that he's blocking me. Need I say that pissed me off? So I lit upon a new plan. I included all his friends in Iceland, sent them all the emails. They had different email addresses from the government of Iceland to just journalists, etc. They all ignored me. Now, they could be blocking me or ignoring me. But why WikiLeaks? He notified me. He sent me the tip. I was confused and pissed off. So, my new plan was to let him know I was pissed off, but not let on to anybody that he was blocking me. I asked him many questions, sent it to his friends, and many other people. One fellow in particular is a Zionist, Mr. Baconfat, baconfat53.blogspot.com. He did me the service of offering his 2 bits about Zionist point of view of the world and Bill Cooper and mean old me, and sent it to them. So even if Julian Assange and all his friends were blocking me, I doubt they had the opportunity to block Mr. Baconfat. Still no response. So on the very evening that Google is helping Stephen Harper's mandate for free, while ignoring the opposition in the Bloc, the Liberals, and the NDP, and answering questions to support his wicked mandate, I think I'll tell Al Jazeera something. Because rest assured, the Russians are checking my work. Perhaps you guys should. Toodaloo.